Son, Heartthrob, the Burberry Bond, all of that. A man like Sai with the shades. We are here for another episode of BlackLight, and I am accompanied by the beautiful, the talented, the fantastic, the incredible, the absolute black woman, the black girl absolute, Jasmine Green. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing a lot better now that I'm here with you. It's the end of the week. It's a beautiful day. We got one of these unseasonably warm Pittsburgh days before we get pounded with snow
Yep.
again.
Yep. It's
You know what I
coming.
mean? Which is part of that's the one thing I always say. Like, I moved out of Canada to avoid snow, and I moved to the wrong fucking city. You
You
get me?
moved to
Like,
the wrong city for that.
and now I'm stuck. Now I'm stuck. So it's just like, at least in Canada we don't get spring. It's just like or fall. It's just summer and winter, right? But in Pittsburgh they like hit you with the okey doke, and it's like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, you gonna get spring. You thought here's some
Yep.
spring.
We have fake spring.
Yeah, you like full spring, I think they call it, something like
Full
that.
spring.
But you know, and we here though. We here. So for all those who don't know, Jasmine Green is not just a member of One Hood, but a phenomenally talented individual that has done some amazing pieces of art that have become pretty popular in the city of Pittsburgh around just blackness, just unforgivable blackness in the full spectrum of it. I think a lot of times when you have black art specifically represented in the media, you think of black art as struggle and pain and trauma. But there's a lot of celebratory aspects of black art that don't get shown. And that's what jazz does. Jazz captures a lot of it authentically. And that's why we're here tonight. We're going to talk about just like her process and everything. So, I guess my first question for you, Jazz, would be, why do you create? I know that's kind of a broad question, but
Mhm.
why is your muse what it is?
It so this kind of the story that I always tell is going back to when I was in high school. Um I went to Woodland Hills High School, which I don't know if the culture there is different now. I really hope it is because it was horrible when I was there. It was just this culture of like having like very clear like black people are in this space, white people are in this space. If you don't fit in these like really narrow definitions of like this very stereotypical view of being black, which didn't serve anybody, then you were like kind of perceived as like being white or like trying to be white. Um, and I felt like, being in that space, I could see other people really not finding that there was a place for them there. And I definitely didn't feel like there was a place for me in that. And
Mm.
for so long, I felt like I didn't have the right to access my blackness in kind of its entirety. And it wasn't until I left that environment and I was seeing like black people just like living their lives unapologetically, like doing whatever. Like, I don't know if we can cuss on here. I'm gonna try to avoid it. Like,
Listen, say whatever the fuck you want. It's my show.
I should have known. If you're the
Come
host,
on,
I should have known.
come on. We're gonna have some colorful language. We're not gonna have nothing else. We're gonna have colorful language.
But honestly, it's like black people doing whatever the fuck they wanted to do, and
There
like
we go.
being like, like if they like something, they like it, and like that doesn't like diminish the fact that you are a black person. Like you can do anything, be anything, and still be black. Like that is what gave me the permission. Like I'm going 100 with this. Like if I can.
See, what's interesting about that? Hold on, I don't mean to cut you off, but you bring up a point where it's like, even when I was in secondary school, any of the black kids that were into art or like anime, right? Because like
Mhm.
whenever I first, when anime first really started popping, I was like around 14, 15. And even though I really loved it and a lot of my friends loved it, collectively, we always thought of those black kids as trying to act white.
Yep. Hmm.
Right. Like, you always thought they were a little weird, little eccentric, a little eclectic and, their taste and everything. And some of them like the emo black kids that would straighten their hair and they had the pierced lips and everything. Like, that was you, Tess. That was you. Do you feel seen right now? Do you feel seen right now? But the thing is like, because we weren't really given agency to our blackness at that time.
Mhm.
And we didn't, and I always say this all the time. Blackness is universal, but the experiences aren't.
Yep.
right? I say that all the time. And that seems to be the case for you, is like, you know what I mean? Like you were in a space where you weren't allowed to have agency over your blackness
Mhm.
in a creative space,
Right.
right? And so what did that really manifest in? Like, you know, did you like secretly create art, or like did you have an outlet at that time, or like what, you know, what was your outlet for it?
My main outlet was in poetry, so I didn't start painting until maybe my junior, my senior year of high school,
Mhm.
which kind of was also this beautiful moment where I first went natural. It was after I saw the Chris Rock documentary, Good Hair.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and after I saw that, like everything just clicked. It was just like, wow, like I don't even feel like I can walk out of the house with my hair just as it naturally grows out of my head. Like I have to do all of these treatments to it. And it's like all of that's happening. And that was like the first moment where people kind of like, I kind of got the opposite treatment. Whereas like before people thought I was pretending to be white. And then like my hair is natural. And now it's like I'm super black.
Right.
And it's just this like, all of these experiences are crashing together, and then that's kind of the moment where I was just like, "Fuck it!" Like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah, yeah.
for it. But yeah, it felt like for a long time that the definition of what could be black was out of my hands. Like even white people were bold enough to say, like, "Hey, I'm blacker than you." Like it was just like just these experiences where it's like, well, I can't define who I am for myself. It's like now I have like, you know, poetry, I have this new medium in acrylic paint, and I have my own voice to like finally be able to define what blackness was for myself and to let other people know that they can define it for themselves as well. And so I feel like that's
Absolutely.
why I have such a strong attachment to using art for that reason, to like expand that blackness can be, you know, a very versatile, like you said, a universal experience, where all Black people can have an attachment to it and they don't feel like they have to like give up something to still be Black.
Absolutely. And it's very important for us to say that specifically as we just come from Black History Month and we're in Women's History Month right now. So I think it's a perfect amalgamation to have you on here speaking about this. Tell me about Black Girl Absolute, what that means. Because I remember like the first time I sent you an email, I was like, Bagger?
Bad
I was
girl.
like, her name Jasmine. Like, if she want me to call her something different, I will. But I was like, okay, type that in. But yeah, tell me about that.
It's weird when I get called by it because I'm definitely so I as you know, I am an introvert, and so
Yeah.
like the
Welcome
name
to the
feels
club.
very powerful, and I'm just like, no. But the name comes from so my original name whenever I started painting was Art of Ashra. And that was connecting to like records talking about like Yahweh and his Ashra and like how
Hmm.
his wife was kind of like cut out of history whenever we get into like, you know, early Christianity. But I kind of want to go down a different route. The name comes from and like there's also like my tagline, like you are enough. There's a poem that I wrote that I ended up calling Black Girl Absolute, where it's talking about how, you know, whenever we talk about Black beauty or we talk about like, you know, talent or just anything involving Blackness, there's almost this impulse to compare it to something white, like you are the Black Marilyn Monroe or you
Yes,
are.
yes, yes.
Mhm. And like that, like I can't remember exactly when I wrote that, but like I kept seeing these comparisons pop up everywhere, like more than usual. And it was like pissing me off because I'm like,
Yeah.
why
We
can't
don't
like
want black versions of white shit. We want our own
right?
shit. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the line in the poem is like, you are amazing, you are incredible 100%. Like you are absolutely you. And that's like
Mhm.
you shouldn't feel the need to like compare yourself to something outside of yourself in order to be worthy. And so that's like
Absolutely.
the message that I wanted to get across. Is like we by ourselves can be amazing without having to look outside of ourselves to see like what are other people doing? Like, can I be worthy if like I'm doing it better than this person? It's like, no, fuck them. Like you are amazing just as you are.
Yeah,
And
for
that's what I
sure.
want other people to see.
So we're gonna bring up some of your artwork right here and some of the pieces that you know I really have taken a liking to. I just happen to be the ones that you submitted. So whenever John brings them up on the screen, we're gonna kind of talk about like the creation process of
Ooh,
this one. Yeah.
yeah.
So like, we're just gonna talk candidly, talk about the creation and what the piece means and everything.
Okay, so this one is called Lazy Bones, and this is one of the pieces that I made angry. I have like a couple of pieces that are more on like my angry side.
Is
Um,
this all acrylic paint, or is this all? Did you do what oil base, or what you do with his?
this is all acrylic. I'm trying to see if there's any marker. I think there's like marker in there, like I forget like the brand, but like the vast majority of it is acrylic paint.
Okay.
Um, this painting was something that I created when I was working in an incredibly toxic work environment. I was the only Black person there. I'm not going to say where, but y'all knew me at that time.
Yeah. We know. Yeah. We know.
Yeah.
Jazz was always late. Jazz was always late because she had some shit. She was
Always.
dealing with some shit.
I'm so happy I'm in the job I'm in now, because that place was just not great for my mental health. But I felt like I was literally working myself to the bone in that place, where it's like I'm trying so hard to show that I was even worth being in this space. And it's not even like a kind of space where you feel like, you have to prove yourself. You just do your work and you go home. But for some reason, I felt like I wasn't doing enough ever in that place. And
Capitalism will do that to you.
yeah, it will. And it's like,
Capitalism will do that to you.
because that's not like a space where you would have expected, for people to like.
But that's the thing, isn't it? It's like anytime your blackness is minimized, right? It is something, people don't understand, and that's kind of the narrative we've been talking about a lot lately, specifically with Meghan Markle. It's like when your blackness becomes minimized, when you're the only person there, it's like your lived experience becomes lesser or a hot take versus your truth.
Exactly.
Right. And that's what we've been seeing in this, right? Like, it's like no one can appreciate the fact that because Meghan Markle is experiencing something, everybody can, it just dashes it away as hearsay or conjecture, or, maybe you misinterpreted. Nah, I know what it feels to be Black in an all white space. And I'm telling you right now, you niggas is bugging.
Exactly.
And it's just, and you know what I mean? It's just that simple. And so, thank you for saying that. Like that painting was really indicative. I thought that was super dope. We got another one here that we're gonna pull up, and I'm waiting. Yeah, okay, here we go.
Okay,
this is powerful.
So this one is on the other side of the spectrum. So for a very long time, I did not feel comfortable in my own skin, particularly around like initially with my hair whenever I first went natural, because a lot of people had a lot of shit to say, but also in my body size as a fat woman. And so for that piece,
we saying BBW. Come on now. Come on now. Yo, don't do that to yourself. Come on BBW, now.
Though, even though I kind of like it, I also kind of don't. But we can talk about that later. But that piece was like at this moment where like I finally felt like I can say I love myself like fully for the first time in a very long time, like basically since I was like a teenager. And so that piece, it was like, I believe I started like bawling because it was like, I finally believe this, that like, I love myself and that I'm beautiful. And this was based off of an artist that I follow, or a model that I follow on Instagram, Daniela, the creator. And she was one of the people that helped me on that journey of seeing myself as a beautiful person. She's also like super obsessed with that piece as well.
There was a point you made just now before we pull up the next one I'll talk about, because you just said something. I got a friend of mine that's an actress, and she's a plus size model, right? And she has a show coming out called Pretty for a Big Girl, right? Yes. You know where I'm going. Yep. You know where I'm going. And that's the thing. It's no different than pretty for a Black girl.
Yep, exactly.
It's the same. It's a backhanded compliment, right? And for you to be able to have that piece and say, I'm comfortable in my own skin. How long did that take for you to be like, you know what, this is me, Black girl absolute. This is everything in me, honestly.
Like I've been painting for about a decade, and it's almost took the entire decade for me to feel like I'm comfortable with where I am, and that like all of the hard work and things that I put in, like I'm worthy of being in spaces with other artists, or I'm worthy of being in spaces with other people that I see as like beautiful people. Like it took so long to get to that space. And so like, I'm really proud of the work that I put in with that. And I'm going to keep trying to work on it, because you're never like ever done with that process. Like it always changes as you change as a person.
Right.
I'm happy that I finally hit this milestone of like getting to that starting line.
That's beautiful. And I know with like, there's a lot of pressures with like social media and, you know, all of these different things that just like, you know, specifically as Black women can never just be on social media.
No,
there's never just a safe space for Black women on social media. And I remember a couple months ago, I believe right at the turn of 2021, there was a proposal for Black women to just have their own social media platform. And like a Black women only, or just even a women only social media platform. And the pushback was outrageous. And I'm like, bro, it's like, why? Like, why? Like, I mean, and let's just say this from a man's point of view. Do you really want to beat her anyway?
Right.
Like, do you go with your girl when she get her hair done? No. Did she go with you to the barbershop? No. Division.
It's no different.
Let them have it. Like, I didn't get it. I was like, it was great. Do you, like, you get me? I'm still on my social media hiatus, by the way, but I did know that was a thing, because I keep my ear to the streets. We got one more piece, and this is probably my favorite piece of yours. Besides there's no camouflage for Black skin, but this piece right here was I remember the first time I seen this. I think this is probably the first time I seen a piece of your art that I actually felt. And that's what we was kind of saying in pre-production, is like, I'm not an art dealer. I'm not an art connoisseur. Like, I like shit that looks good. And, you know, I was saying, I know Bob Ross, I know Van Gogh, I know all the painters that I had to know when I was in primary school and, you know, secondary school and all of that. But this shit, I felt something with this. Let's talk about this piece right here.
So yeah, this piece is probably my most painful. So obviously everything that happened with Antoine Rose II was the sort of impetus for me creating this. And I wanted to try to cover, my goals going into this was like, I wanted to cover this subject of Black loss in a way that is healing for the people that are looking on it. Because whenever we talk about police brutality, and whenever we talk about, not like even just us and like in the Black community, it's when other people talk about what's going on, especially in the Black Lives Matter movement, it's this constant, like, it gets to a point where it's like trauma porn, where it's like they're just constantly over and over and over again, people like getting murdered. And it's like, it's the only way people are ever talking about it. So like, there was a time where I was like, I want to be informed about all this, but every time I get informed about it, I'm re-traumatized. And so I wanted a way to like merge these two things, where it's like you can talk and be informed about and like know about these people that have gone, but we could talk about it in a way that's healing and that helps bring us together. And so for this piece, I focused on like the people as they were alive. If the text is like really small in the background, but for each of the people that I've listed, and all of the names in the background are names of people that have been murdered as a result of police brutality or as a result of white terrorism in the United States. And so finding them, one, was like extremely difficult, which is troubling in itself, that we can't, like, there's no database where these people are listed. But finding all of these people, like, and I was saying this again in pre-production, like, there's this trauma that you carry with you of like knowing the ways that these people were murdered and knowing the ways that these people were taken from their families. But my job in that moment as the artist was to like make sure that each of their names were like clearly visible, making sure I'm including their birthdays as best as they were recorded. Because I think the quote on the bottom is like, so long as we speak their names, that they'll still live with us. I don't think that's the exact quote, but I wanted to like get across that like, as long as we keep fighting for these people, they live with us. And my favorite part of that was like finding a way of like, because the center of the image is like the hoodie and the roses in the center. Like I wanted like that image to look alive and to look like athletes. Like that was my goal going into that. And so like, I'm happy that it came out the way that it did. But yeah, this is Like even now thinking about it, like this piece took maybe about like 5 or 6 months to finish, just to like get through all of those names and to get through their stories. And like, because I wanted to make sure I took time with each person. Like I wasn't just rushing to find a name and like write their name down. Like I actually wanted to know what these people's lives were like as best as like they've been recorded.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
there's a brother I know who's a professor at, I believe, University of Minneapolis. His name is Jason Soul. He has a movement called Humanize My Hoodie, where he just puts that on to like humanize my hoodie. And it was kind of created in the wake of Trayvon. And then, it had another meeting again with Antoine. And unfortunately, it keeps having these meanings, right? Like, we're like, I have right now, like I have on a hoodie, right? And I had said it on this podcast I was on. It's like, it doesn't matter that my hoodie, right, this is designer, right? I think this hoodie cost me like $350, $400, something like that.
I was gonna
Cops
say,
don't care. Cops don't care about that shit. They'll put 400 bullet holes in that shit. You know what I mean? They'll put $400 worth of bullet in there. But I shouldn't be criminalized for my hoodie the way Trayvon was criminalized for it, the way Antoine Rose was criminalized for his death. But, and so we have these creation pieces now, specifically this summer, where over the pandemic, people were in a space that no one's ever experienced before, at least not from our generation. And the thing people were turning to alleviate the pressures of the pandemic was art. And in the form of art, we had activism. And then for the first time, for us at One Hood, this is nothing new. We do artivism, right? That's nothing new for us. But this was the first time, really, the nation got to see artivism kind of coalesce on this global scale. And then we had people creating protest pieces and people creating art pieces about protests.
Yep.
In terms of creation and all of that, where does that fit in for you? Because you do a lot of this prior to kind of the nuanced, the sexy artivism term. Like a lot of your art was protest based. It was activism based, about celebrating blackness and about celebrating absolute blackness. So how did you feel about all that this summer?
Oh, I have complex feelings about that. So I was really happy to see that a lot of people that have been doing work in artivism were finally getting the recognition that they always deserved. There was a bittersweetness in that, obviously, because it's like, why are you just interested in this now? Like this has been on for a very long time. And it seems like any other time we've brought it up, it's like, why are you making it about race? And then it's like, oh, now you see it. But I think for me over the summer, especially, I kind of took a different turn where it's like, I know there's going to be people from like outside communities that are going to latch onto this for right now. And then like in a couple of months, all of that support is going to go away. And so I think where my mind went was into the healing aspect for the people in the community. I tried to make artwork that was more about like the self-care and like making sure that you're like giving yourself extra kindness in this moment. Because I know I definitely needed that. And you could see people online, like especially going back into like the trauma porn aspect of like showing clips of police brutality, like that was everywhere. And
yeah, I couldn't watch it. I can't watch no shit like that.
It was horrible. Like I haven't seen like any of the most recent like cases of police brutality. Like I can't watch those videos. And so like I just wanted to give people a space where like they could still be fully Black, but also not feel like they have to be on edge, because we deal with that enough everywhere else. And it's like, I can give you one place where you can like slow down and breathe and feel like at peace, like then that's my mission right now.
And that kind of leads me into asking something else. Now, you took time out to do things for yourself, specifically in the pandemic. And one I thought was super dope was you learn how to rollerblade, right? I seen it. This is before I jumped on social media. I seen Jazz like, hitting the slaloms through the cones and everything. And I was like, oh, I see you out here. I see you out, because it's things that you take for granted, right? Like, But so what was your catalyst to say, hey, listen, I'm gonna try this shit right now?
So it was actually my best friend Olivia, which I think she's in the kitchen. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna embarrass you. But
that's who's making all that goddamn noise. She's fucking up my broadcast. So don't play. Only a little bit.
So she actually had the idea because it seemed like everyone was getting into this. And At first, I just did it because I'm very like non-risk averse. Like I don't like doing anything where I feel like I'm gonna get injured. And at first, it became like this like kind of fun thing that's like, oh, like I'm learning how to do something new. But over the course of the pandemic, and especially over the course of the summer, it just became like this space where I could like be outside of my head. I don't have to worry about the world burning down around me. Because
Yeah, yeah,
there's
yeah.
a frustration where it's like you're working so hard to like change things and like things don't happen fast because what's hurting us is systemic and systems don't like to change. And so it's like in this moment, if I could just take like 30 minutes to an hour just to get outside of my head and do something that makes me feel good, then I'm going to keep doing that. And so like that's what it's become in my life. So yeah, it was.
No, it's dope. It's dope because, like, you know,
right before this.
that's like, because it's a nice day. It was one of our few nice days. Like you, and it's cool. It's like you show that on your YouTube, and you have a very fair amount of vulnerability. You just got your driver's license too, still, right?
No, still working on it.
Still working on a driver's license. Okay, but if you know, drop your YouTube real quick. Drop your YouTube channel on there. Please hit the subscribe button for Jasmine. Um, Boom, there we go. Yeah, thank you. And you know, for our listeners and people who haven't seen, could you plug yourself on YouTube?
Yes. So my channel is Black Girl Absolute on YouTube. Same as it is on Instagram. On that channel, I try to go through different topics, kind of just like different things that will pop up during the week. I'm actually working on a video for this weekend. I think it's more focusing on like the actual art materials. Although later this year, I kind of want to go into specific topics about like blackness and like being a black artist.
Right.
And so, yeah, definitely follow if you're interested. I try to make it like a chill channel. So if you need like some chill art stuff, then.
Didn't you quote me on one of like the first episode or something
Yep,
you did?
I think it was like the late bloomer video, which I need to do more late bloomer videos. Yeah, but your quote about the date palm about taking 30 years to flower. What was the?
So a date palm tree where you get the delicious date fruits from, it takes 10 years to grow you a fruit. So you plant it and then you cultivate it for 10 years. And I was just saying, like, no such thing as a late bloomer. You're never on schedule, but you're always on time.
Yeah.
You know, just keep doing what you're doing, you know, and that's dope. I mean, I appreciate, you know, you reciprocating that and putting that out in the universe. One other thing.
It was so powerful. Yeah.
But you know, I think, you know, specifically as an artist, right? Artistic people tend to arrive in places like really haphazardly and unexpectedly.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like you were saying, like, you know, in secondary school, you were just like, hey, this is how I'm coming to terms with this. And then you started off as a poet and boom, it manifests in art, you know, like physical, you know, painting and all of that. And that was something that Jazz and I were kind of talking about in pre-productions, like different art forms that, you know, we appreciate. And there's so much in that says about creation. And I think that like what people don't understand about artists, and chime in, you know, we got about 2 minutes, but like is the fact that not only do creatives have bills, but creatives they empty themselves into their bodies of work. Right. And that leaves you very drained after you do a big creation. Is that always the case for you, or sometimes is it really effortless? They just create.
I know I'd go back and forth. So especially a piece like from Trayvon to Antoine, that piece left me like unable to create for like a solid 2 months, I think, afterwards, because it was just like that. I just poured like everything and more into. And so I needed time to like recuperate a little bit of that back. Some pieces, it will literally be like the day that I finish that, I'm pulling out a new canvas and it's like on to the next thing. But most of the time it's like, because I try to feed so much of myself into it. Like you said, like there's just this period afterwards where I'm just like, I need a rest to like go in between.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful thing. Like I wouldn't have it any other way. Like I want, like a piece should make me feel like I need to take a break afterwards, because then I know like I did the damn thing basically.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what's fantastic about art, because there's a person that you personify a little bit of yourself in your artwork every time you create something. You're always like, whether it's, you know, emceeing, whether it's poetry, whether it's physical art, you know what I mean, like artifacts and things like that. Like you get the kind of a window into the soul of the creator. And that's what, that's what, like I said, what I appreciate about your art and seeing that. And there was a piece that we're about to wrap up, but there's a piece that we didn't show, but Jazz had at one of our events. It was like, there's no camouflage for black skin.
Yes.
And that, like, yo, that, I seen that. I remember I was like, I gotta take a picture next to this, because it was just like it just resonated for me. And because we were kind of galvanizing around something that was super important, so to have that piece specifically displayed then, was just incredible. But first off, let me just thank you for everything and just being unapologetically you. And I just gotta kind of tip my hat to you, just for like being, just being honest enough with yourself to be like, this is what I'm doing because it's me, right? And it's a great way to lead by example. So Jasmine Green, Black Girl Absolute. Thank you again for coming in. Real quick, give us just drop your Instagram and your YouTube down below, and then just tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah. So let me see. I think he has.
There we go.
Perfect. So yeah, you can find me on Instagram. I'm not really on Facebook, but I'm trying to change that. But you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Black Girl Absolute. I'm also on my YouTube channel at Black Girl Absolute. I think my specific handle is BGAPGH on Instagram.
BGAPGH.
It's Black Girl Absolute. PGH is a Pittsburgh, just all smushed together.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
And thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. I miss you so much. I miss
you too.
So much.
I miss you too. We're gonna get these vaccines so we can see each other in the real world. You get me? But everybody, listen, man. Take care of yourself out here, man. Until next month, we got a special one for you next month, inshallah. And I'll catch you soon, man. Everybody, bless up. Peace.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.